Okay, so let's just get down into the legs. So stable and double weighted. So you're very much in the middle. So what we're trying to do is just feel the dantian and feel how the dantian is attached to the legs. The legs are like two stalks that support the dantian. So just sitting down, but keeping some tension here so that your bum doesn't flick out behind you. So you want the sense that your dantian is actually pulling inwards a little bit, but this whole area is actually coming forwards a little bit. So there's always two movements. There's like a local movement, and then there's a movement off that locale. So I remember when we were doing the short form, John would always make a point of coming round and adjusting people's postures. So he'd get you standing in a posture, and he'd just put his hand on the lower back generally. And when I started doing it with my students, I realized what I always used to do, he used to put his hand here, and I used to just assume something was wrong, and so I'd push my belly forwards. That's not what's required. Basically, the hand on your sacrum, which is what we have to imagine when we're doing our own Tai Chi, the hand of the master on the sacrum is something, it's like a reassurance, it's something you can relax back onto. So I'm actually relaxing backwards onto his hand, and his hand is then pushing me forwards. So there's two motions. So this is what we have to try and catch when we're on our own. It's not just a willful driving forwards of my belly. I have to relax backwards, but allow my belly to slip forwards. So it's quite complex, you know. And it's very much, you know, of the mind, of the layers of the mind. So John always used to say, you don't want to replace a tension with another tension. Yeah. So we're just trying to relax. So if you really relax this area here, then you'll tend to slip backwards. Yeah? So you allow that, and then you allow your whole body to be scooped forwards. And now let's just try pulling that area. So just first of all, just find your dantian. Yeah, so it should be a point that's so familiar to you, you can just instantly put your fingers there. And just press in. So you want to feel the tension that you have in your belly that is supporting your dantian. Yeah? And now just tighten it a bit more and feel as though you're pulling your fingers inward. And then push out, and then pull in, and then push out. Pull in, push out, pull in, and push out. Pull in, push out. So you're trying to pull your fingers inward. So you want where your fingers are, you want your dantian to be the center of like a ball of activity. it's the part that's actually pulling in and tensing. So that's pulling right in towards your sacrum. And then you just release it out again. So you're trying to get movement in the dantian. So let's swap the fingers. So now these ones, yeah? And the same thing, so just pulling in. And just really just look, you know, with your mind, you're looking into your dantian. Squeeze and relax. Squeeze and relax. Squeeze and push, squeeze and push. So pulling the belly right in and then relaxing it out. Pulling the belly right in and relaxing it out. Pulling it right in, relaxing it out, pulling it right in, relaxing it out. So now just the same thing, but just with both fists. So pull and push, pulling the belly in. So feel as you pull your belly in, it's squeezing into the kidney area. So just allow that to happen. So you're pulling, so this is the thing about these points, these energy points, they have a front and a back. So when you pull the front in, the back expands. And if I was to pull the back in here, then the front expands. And this is what we're looking at now, is how, so this is pulling in at the front and here expanding into this whole area here. And then I contract my back and then let it expand here. So this work that takes place in the dantian is just a consequence of alternating the tension front and back. So I become like a ball, and then here I almost turn inside out. So pulling in and pushing out. Pulling in, pushing out, pulling in, pushing out. Good. And now just, again, just feel the dantian. So just get deep down. You want, so there's two aspects of gravity that we have to be mindful to. One is the gravity of the earth, which for me is like rain. Rain would be an image of gravity. So rain just streams down, it comes down in straight lines and droplets unless there's a wind. So I'm standing in that field. I'm standing in a gravitational field that is pulling down. Now, as well as that, there's my own gravity, which is my own sense of the center. And this is my gravitational center, which is actually pulling every part of me towards it. Now, what we want to do now is just feel this point pulling me, so it's pulling me in. So this exercise we've just done does that. It actually gives you this sense of your center. And now just feel this point being pulled down by the ground. Yeah? Like there's an elastic connection between your center and the Earth's center. And when you do this, when you bounce, you're just teasing that elastic thread. So you want to be very much aware of the pull of gravity on your own gravitational center, on your own dantian. And then you can forget about it in the rest of the body because you know you're held together. So you want to be held together by your own gravity, but actually attached to the earth by the earth's gravity. And we want to be mindful of that, not simply assuming it's going to happen. That's right. And now let's just get down. So now feel this center and just squat down. Just squat down. And just feel it pulling. Yeah? So as you get down into your legs, it just basically gets stronger. the energy gets a bit thicker, if you like, as you get closer to the ground. So your belly's being pulled down, you're squatting down. Okay, now as you straighten the legs, just feel like you're pulling something, you're stretching something up. So it's quite difficult to get up. And so when you're here, you haven't snapped that connection. It's still very much pulling you down. So if anything, because you're visualizing it differently now, as you straighten your legs, it's actually getting stronger because that elastic is being stretched even more. And then down again, to keep the knees out, just go down. You can just rest your elbows on your legs and just feel your dantian. It's almost like there's a conversation going on between the earth and your own dantian. And then straighten the legs slowly and feel that elastic stretch. That's great. So this is very much part of the that squeezing action that we want in the muscles. It all comes from this really. So down again, down. Feel the ground pulling your dantian. And then just up and let that connection stretch. That's great. So now when you're standing like this, you've still got this sense of something pulling down here. And now you can feel the legs, as though your legs actually come all the way up to the shoulders, to the opposite shoulder. So this leg is pushing up here. This leg is pushing up here. Simply by virtue of the fact that I've strengthened that connection with the ground. So let's just try one more. So down, hips open. Just really squatting down, opening the back here, the hips, feeling that connection, and then just push and squeeze. So you're still sinking down, but you're squeezing up through that. That's it, that's it, that's great. Yeah. And then when you're in this position, you've very much still got the down, but you've also got the up from the legs. And now we'll just stand just a few seconds in riding horse. So again, just feel this in the center. You're a bit like a starfish. Think of a starfish with its 5 limbs. So you've got your 2 legs, your 2 arms, and your head. So they're like the limbs of the starfish. And this is your strong center. Okay, and now bring the hands in. And now feel this center. Feel the hands. Imagine that you have like a thread of elastic from here to your hands. Now what you're doing here is just stretching that. So you're stretching a line from your dantian upwards. And then here it wants to come back. So you have to control that back because the elastic wants to unstretch it. And now here again, so your dantian is sinking and staying low, and you're stretching a line from it up into your hands and then down. So what we're endeavoring to do here is, even though the arms are doing all the moving, we want to keep our mind here on the secure knot in our belly that's holding on to everything and allowing this to happen. So what we're always looking for, what we're looking for now is, what part of the mind is it that you keep in the dantian? obviously it can't be too much of your conscious mind, otherwise you wouldn't have consciousness for anything else. So there's like, it's almost like a little bit like a back of the mind. So this part of you is here all the time. And part of you is here with your arms going up. So the image I always think of is like when you're caring for children. So often they don't need a lot of care. So you're present and you're reading a book or something, but as soon as something happens, then you're up. And so there's a sense that you're actually, this is like your child. So you're caring for it, but you don't have to be too present. But if you ignore it or forget it, first of all, there may be danger, and secondly, it will feel it. It will feel that lack of care, that lack of attention. And now let's just go up, and now let it go out, but really let the shoulders up and out, like they're going over the top of something in order to get out. That's it. And now here, this leg is really feeding into this arm, the opposite arm, and this leg is feeding into this arm. So now you're even more like a starfish, because there's a feeling of stretching out from that center with your arms and your head. So it's like your spine and your two arms, which all emanate from your dantian, are really stretching and working away from the dantian. And now bring it up, and again, just stretch, but keep your belly down. You can stretch and reach up as high as you like, as long as you don't let the belly come up. And then this comes down. That's great. And again, up and out. You just want to feel, what do I release in order to get the shoulders to go up and over? And then when I'm in this position, can I really wrench this open? You want the feeling that your heart is looking up rather than forwards. And then up and down. That's great. Okay, now this time when we're going to do the same thing, but this time try and have a slightly out of phase feeling with the two arms. When we do things that are too symmetrical and too single weighted, too double weighted, then the two arms tend to counter each other a little bit. So I go up, but I let one hand lead. So I'm going over with this one, and then this one follows. So there's a slight, it doesn't have to be a complete out of phaseness, but there's a subtle, so basically what it does, it brings turning of the waist into the equation. So here, and I just allow one side to go, and then the other side comes out. So you can see that as one goes down, the other one wants to come up. So there's this natural single-weighted action in a body that is relaxed. And again, so up, and just lead with one, and then let the other one go out. Yeah. So it just takes a bit of practice this. So when you get it right, you can barely see the difference between the two arms. Yeah, so you're going up and there's just one. You see it more in the waist, like there's a turn. Yeah. And it's what happens as I reach up and go over the top. There's a point at the top there where you just lose control. And you just have to let, something takes over. So you really need this to be down so that something here can just express itself. So this is what we're looking for here. And then up. And so we're looking at the two different types of movement. There's movement that my mind imposes upon my body, which is, if you like, it comes from outside. It's my mind deciding, okay, I'm going to do this with my body, and then you doing it. But then there's also movement that is generated within the body that's almost unconscious, or at least subconscious. So that's what happens here. So at the top here, there's this little bit of expression where something in you just lets go, and there's a moment, a fraction of a second, where something pops out that you've got no control over. So you don't really know what it's going to look like, how it's going to appear. And then the same thing here, and then there's a point there. So this is what we're looking for in these exercises. So in one sense, we're really controlling. And so we're really, got a lot of control over this sunk body. But the only reason we have that sort of control and that sort of stability is that so we can let this other thing go, this little, what we call spirit, this spark of expression. So something here wants to come out. Yeah. So that's what you see in those pictures of El Greco, of the saint looking upwards. That they have a certain look in their face. It's completely not arrogant. It's just a sense of trepidation, tentative. Yeah? And so they're in perfect balance between the control they have themselves under and that quality which just comes out when you release that control, because that is the holy part. I mean, God is not interested in how much your mind can control things. It's how much can you release. It's your releasement. You know? So here I go up and there's that point. Yeah. I have a moment of just letting go and just letting something pop out that I have no control over. I can't, no guarantees, no profit to be made, just whoa. That's great. Okay, and now let's just turn it. So just turn and just let the arms slowly relax. You want to keep this openness in the shoulders. But just turning, so turning the hips. And feel how if you do this and stay sunk, it will also tighten up the belly, but in a very different way. So there's a pull into the, where the wheel meets the axle, so where your waist meets the spine, there's a natural pull into that area. But also, of course, it has to be very, very free to move. So it needs to be very well oiled and very smooth, so that there's not too much wobbling. So 1, 2. And again, just use it as a meditation. So just feel the two, same way when we were standing, we were feeling the down and the up. So here you're feeling the in and the out. You're feeling the centripetal forces holding you together in the center, and the centrifugal forces throwing your hands, the flesh on your face, throwing it all outward. So that's the balance we're looking at when we're turning. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. That's it. So just get these two forces operating. Yeah, so that the arms being flung out and the dantian pulling into itself to hold everything stable in the middle. And then in the middle of that, just feel this, again, this eruption upwards. So it's a bit, so your heart is a bit like a flashlight, a torch that's just shining upwards to the sky. And that's only possible because you are sunk into your dantian. So sink and relax would be like the humility. So that just connecting to the earth, if you like, the earthly. And then the heart upwards would be the adoration, the prayer of adoration. You're just looking up and just loving. You know. So that's the vertical, so the belly going down, the heart going up, and now the arms, you can see, they are distributed onto the horizontal by the turning. So this is basically the foundation of Tai Chi. And then slowly let it wind down. Yeah, so it should feel so well oiled that it almost like it doesn't really want to stop. Yeah. So what you'd like is movement, especially turning, to be your natural state. So to actually stop it, you have to impose a violence, so you have to violate the turning to actually cause it to come to some sort of stillness. Yeah. That's great. So this is a good exercise in itself, because you really have to look at the distribution of tension between the legs to actually get this free. Yeah. So obviously your legs are working really hard, but this area almost feels like it's floating in space. Yeah. So this is one of the difficulties of a sunk posture, is that I want to be sunk, which means my legs have to work really hard. But I don't want this area here, my dantian area, to be locked in position by these rock-hard legs. I want my legs to simply be supporting a space within which I have complete mobility and freedom of movement with the with my hips, if you like. So now let's just try just rotating, so just making like a circle. So you're just tipping. So you're just rolling around with your hips and just feeling the legs making all these sort of micro adjustments to accommodate this movement. You want nothing in your legs that prevents this sort of movement. So you can tip one side, you can tip the other, you can pull your tail right under, you can push it right out. So when I practice with my students here, we do this with each other. So I get them standing and then I adjust this area and they just have to let it go and just allow me to manipulate it. Now it's actually very difficult because we're all control freaks and we don't like someone else manipulating our bodies. So, and here what we want is to be able to work on yourself as though you're another person working on this strange body. Okay? So it's as though I have my hands here and I'm moving this area. So we have to be able to look at ourselves dispassionately, but also compassionately, of course, but not in an attached way. So this is what, John often used to say, most of the students that come to me are not ready to begin. So this is like beginning. Beginning is just being able to just look at yourself and admit your faults. Yeah? Just see you for what you are. So there's this real sense of something. So now let's just figure of 8 is a little bit, but very small. So we're just trying to get this alternating motion. So we're just trying to encourage a motion to come from within, rather than one that's actually imposed upon my body from without, from my external mind. So I'm just trying to get this movement so small that it's barely noticeable. Yeah? And really look inside, get especially your back brain, your back sacrum, they're all connected. And you're just looking inside and getting this movement, and it's being generated by your internal presence rather than by an external mind. Yeah, so here, so it's getting down. Okay, and now just hands on the down chin. So here, just push in a little bit. And now, keeping the mind down here, just lift the hand. So just lift the hand and then bring it down. And lift again. So what we're looking at now is movement that is not assisted by the mind. We don't realize it, but normally when we move, our mind has already done the movement. Yeah? So the mind is always planning ahead. And we don't realize it often because it does it so well and so quickly. But for me, just down the road, there's a children's playground, and there's like a really tall, like a climbing thing made of ropes. And the kids love to climb up to the top, and it's quite high. And I remember Ty asked me to come up with her once, and I just found my mind just looking at it and planning a route. Yeah? Planning a route to the top with my mind very, very quickly, so that by the time I reached it and I climbed up, I already knew what route I was going to take. Yeah? So this is what we're trying to stop here, so that I'm actually in my dantian, and I just don't. It's almost like this is someone else's hand. Just let it down. And just take your mind completely off it. Take your eyes off it as well. So the hand is coming up, but it's not being assisted. I'm not clearing a path and then pulling it up with this careless mind. It's up. And all the while, there's a strong, if you really push in with your fingers to the dantian, then you won't be able to take your mind off it because it will hurt. Nothing like pain. So can you just let this movement come from somewhere other than your normal planning mind? So it's coming, so obviously it's coming from you. You're getting the arm up because you're doing something, but it's not from the usual place. So this now is just much more like the movement we would like, and then just swapping the hand round. So it's a movement that has as its foundation mind in the dantian. That's great. That's great. Okay. Now let's try just single weighted now. So the same idea really, but what we do is just we slip into one leg and just let this hand come up. So you're still locked into your dantian. Yeah, so you can either point the finger up, not sure if you can see my hand, like this, or just keep the hand open. And then into the other leg. So what we want is for single weighted to not be simply the weight in one leg, but to be clearly distinguishing full and empty. So this side is full and is heavy and is sinking down, and this side is empty and is light and is ascending upwards. So we really want to feel the interaction of yin and yang. Just let these two parts separate and depend upon each other. So when you're standing like this, you're not freezing, you're not locking, you're feeling the flow down and you're feeling the reach upwards. And those two movements are in perfect balance. And just feel what do you have to do with your mind to actually make those continue rather than just letting the situation freeze over and then your mind thinking about something else. There's like an optimism. You need to be quite sort of caring and optimistic to actually keep these two flows going. Because the mind is always wanting to stray. And then this side. And just feel, you want the feeling that you're almost falling in this direction. So it's like you're leaning against something. And you really feel the outside edge of this foot. It's like you want to venture out of your circle, but of course you can't because you'll fall over. But there's a sense that the edge of your circle is where you want to be. You don't really want your mind, your heavy mind, to actually be anywhere close to the center. Because the heavy mind will always disturb and interrupt the energy, and you want the energy to be in the center. So I'm falling here. It's like I'm leaning onto a wall, and that wall is the edge of my own space. That looks great. And then this side again, and go on. So the shoulders. So if you were to really, if you were to stay here a long time, and so long that you're beginning to get really tired, imagine how it would look. It would sort of look something like this. You'd be really tipping into it. So just let that happen. Okay, now as we swap over now, just allow this hand to come out to the side. So this is, there's a lot of Tai Chi postures where we do this. So use this hand to pull you even more to that side. Feel the outside edge of the foot, push down with your big toe, release the instep from the ground. And then this side, so down and walk. That's good. So all the time, if you find the mind getting a bit bored and straying, then just use the mind to scan the body. You know, where am I tense? Can I relax this shoulder so I have a sense of really hanging off something here? Can I relax this shoulder so I get more energy flowing into the hand? Is my neck tense? Is this forwards rather than back? They're all points of concentration. So here, 1 and 2. That's great. And the thing about maintaining this balance, which is what we're trying to do, is that on a very small scale, what you're doing, so this energy that we talked about earlier on, which is this sort of eruption from here that you don't really have much control over, that we want to release, that is flowing into this structure constantly, albeit on quite a small scale. So there's this sense that something in you is just flowing upwards. So this is what we mean by generosity. It's got nothing to do with being nice to people or giving all your money away. It's just here, just letting your specialness flow upwards. And one more, let's start. So 1 and up. So you have all sorts of hand positions. You could be on the cushion of air, like in the form. You could have your fingers pointing down, like chin and chin light. Often I'll just have my index finger just pointing down because it gives it's more pointed, so there's more focus. Yeah. The fingers are very strong. And now let's just stretch the legs. So now just bring the knee up. And again, I'm single weighted, so clearly distinguish full and empty. This side is full, this side is empty. And now just pull your knee in. So stretching towards you. If you topple, if you wobble, if you fall, then all the better. Yeah? Because often we actually maintain our balance by just making ourselves tense. And you don't really want that. So you're using the strength in your arms to pull your knee in a bit, to try and pull the lower back a little bit. So you're tugging at your lower back here, rather than your leg. And then down again and again, up, and just pulling in. That's it. And then this side. So the more you do it, the more you you curl into it. So it's a bit like a fetus, like the embryo in the womb that's sort of, you know, close to the term. And so its legs are really pulled into its chest and it's all curled up. So we've got the same thing here. Just look at that picture of Chen Man-ching doing sweet lotus and you'll see it's perfect. You know, he's so beautifully curved. So you should be able to just get your head with the knee. So this is curling the spine up, whereas what we've been working on the rest of the lesson is extending the spine upwards. So you're pulling inwards to accommodate this leg. Okay, now let's just stretch the thigh. So just holding the foot up and just pulling it in and just pushing the knee downwards and just stretching the thigh. Wow. And what I do is just count to 5, and with each count, just bounce very slightly. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So each count, you're just pulling a tiny bit more, and it just adds a bit of focus. Let's try this leg. So first of all, get it into position, get your balance, and then just bounce and count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it. And then down and up here. Try and use both hands on your foot because that will pull the shoulders open, and then just count and bounce. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then again. And again here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's just a matter of practice. So I have a class with there's 2 women who are over 80 and they have no problem with this. So so it's just a matter of just practice. And the thing to do is to practice with your hand on a wall. So you get some sort of familiarity as to what's required, and then just gingerly take your hands off. It's a bit like practicing headstands. You do it against the wall before you actually try it in the middle of the room, otherwise you're going to hurt yourself. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Great. Okay, and now let's just shock the body. So just banging the feet. Yeah. So keep the legs bent and just bang. If you're barefoot, then the feet should really sting. And there's a few times in which you put shoes on. 1, 2, Great. And now just squatting down, but trying to keep the spine vertical and coming onto your toes. So just down and then just back up. Okay. So basically you're just doing this, you're bringing the arms up and out, and you're just going down, but letting your body weight come forwards onto the toes. That's right. So when you're at the bottom, you should really feel this proud and wanting to go back up. And then here you just let something float up here and let the body follow. And again, up and down. That's right. And again, up and down. And one more. Up and out. And up and in. That's very good. That's right. Okay. Now let's try this one. Yeah, so this is like our motor that generates the postures of Tai Chi. You're basically making 2 circles simply by turning the hips. So that you don't even have to think of turning. You can just think of a piston action here. Yeah? So you're just one going forward, one going back. And because of the way your arm is articulated, it ends up making these circles. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Just let your mind be with the hand that's coming in. So my mind is with this hand and it's turned away from this one. So the hand that reaches out, you don't want to inhibit it with the mind. You want it to be free. So you're trying your best to keep the waist in the middle, keep the dantian in the middle. But as you turn to the left, you will naturally go into the left foot a bit more. So just use that to feed the opposite hand. So the hand that's coming forwards and out is the one with the energy in, and the other hand is pulling energy towards you. So this is giving the energy out, and this one is pulling the energy in. So 1. And again, clearly distinguish full and empty. So just really split these two actions. Yeah, so one of the skills we really need to develop is the ability to do two opposite things at the same time without them cancelling each other out. So we want to feel how, as I pull in, that naturally sends the other hand out. Turn. So you'd like it to become meditation. So by that, what we really mean is that your mind is disappearing. Your mind is just curling up into the dantian and just letting the movements take care of themselves. So it's good. So it's like you've disappeared inside the exercise. Yeah. So it's a continuation of that one where we pulled the leg in as we stood on one leg. So that was pulling the leg into the chest. Now here it's like you're really working on this space and you're curling over it and under it. So you're creating this like a private space which you're attending to, but you're cascading all of this energy out around yourself. So the whole room is moving with your movement. Because all you're trying to do is just stay locked into the dantian. So you become, the upper bodies become very much like an egg. And then just bring the arms up. And again, just, so here you've got your dantian sinking down. You've got your chest lifting up. You've got your arms reaching forwards. You can either think in terms of offering something to someone or begging, like one of those young beggars in the street. And so your upper back is actually leaning back to balance the reach forwards. And again, if we can manage to keep all of these movements in balance rather than just freezing them out and letting the mind wander, then the posture will sort of tingle with grace. It will have this special quality. Remember the Disney version of Peter Pan, and Peter Pan is trying to teach Wendy and the boys how to fly. And they're lying on the bed, and he says, it's easy, it's all you have to do is just imagine it. So they're imagining they're flying, and they're sort of coming off the bed a little bit, but then flopping down. And he can't quite understand why it's not working. And then he has this sudden brainwave, and he just catches Tinkerbell, his little fairy friend, out of the air, and just shakes some dust from her onto the children, and suddenly they just lift up. Yeah? So this is what we need. We need that little bit of grace in order to bring this elevating energy up. Yeah? And we can create that with our own mind. This is what, this is prayer of adoration, basically. This is just you lifting the heart to God. And now just turn it. So now just turn towards the leg. Yeah, so you're just offering, if you like, you're offering your tray around the room. So you're just turning, trying to keep the spine still in the middle, and just turning your whole structure. So when you're still, it's quite easy to get that feeling of just open giving, flowing upwards. But when you have to move, of course, you've got so many other things to think about. And so here we just want to be able to move left and right, but still keep the heart lifting upwards. Right. Right. And then just back to the front again. Yeah. So just feel, as we turn and as we get into what we're doing, the arms tend to come more and more outward. Yeah? So what we gain in breadth, but we lose depth. So now just bring the hands forwards again and just let the upper back slip back. Yeah? So the situation is always a complex. It's always like lots of things happening. And the temptation is always to oversimplify. But if you want to oversimplify it, then just think of Dantian pulling down, this going up. Okay. And then your arms just come out of your spine, and basically your arms are just in hug mode all the time. So even when you release the hands and make a gesture forwards, you're gesturing for a hug. Yeah? So it's like you just do this and you're inviting the person in. There's a story of Dr. Chi, when Alan Peck, who's dead now, he's one of John's good students, he has some terrible disease, but he he went to visit Dr. Chi, and I think he was there for 9 weeks, so he was there longer than any of John's other students. It was quite a long time. So they sort of became pally, and him and Dr. Chi. So when Dr. Chi took him to the airport at the end of his stay, and as they were saying goodbye, Dr. Chi just put his arms up like this as like a gesture to say, you know, give me a hug. Yeah? So Alan just walked towards him and put his arms around him, and he wasn't there, he was behind him. Yeah? So this was like the last lesson of yielding. Yeah? So he just made use of Alan's slight embarrassment and his looking away in order to help himself with this intimate gesture with the master, and just slipped out and appeared somewhere he wasn't expected. I love that story. And then the hands in, into prayer posture. So just get the line between your elbows quite straight. And just feel how this feels different. Just feel the difference in the posture. So this is much more bringing you back to yourself. So this, if you like, is like our neutral pose. It's, in a sense, it's more neutral than this, because this is just a little bit non-expressive. So this is, you are operating on the heart, but you're very much here. Yeah. Now let's just bring the feet up, but again, keep them bent and same position. Yeah, so we should be able to, you know, we're fluid, we're flexible. So when the legs get tired, just change the position. Don't come up. Just, so you can just slip into one leg and then slip into the other and just feel. So now this is wanting to happen, of course. And so by keeping my hands together, I'm just introducing this sort of torsion. And then I can slip across into the other foot. And this is wanting to happen, but I don't let it. But of course, it's there. So as soon as you become single-weighted, as soon as I slip into one foot, I have full and empty. I have this wanting to happen. So not only is full and empty becoming distinguishable, but you tend to turn. When you become single-weighted, you tend to turn. It doesn't really matter which way you turn. For me, this is stronger. So when I turn towards the foot I'm putting the weight into, so it's there. So don't let yourself turn physically, but just one side of your body just melts down, but that way, backwards a bit. Yeah? So for me, this is prayer. I mean, it can't get any more prayerful, really. And you can always talk, you can always say a prayer. Hail Mary, you can sort of do your thing. And wow. Yeah. So what we're always looking for is that point where it comes alive, where it starts to get sexy. Where you start to get these internal movements that are just trying to find a way through your body. And that's really grace. That's really you just becoming magical. And a couple more. And one. So something in you. This is what John was so good at. He tended not to camp it up, but it was just there all the time. Remember, he used to shake you, so this tremble in a way that was just this grace that just cast off it all the time. I think about. That feeling that the sinking down, squeeze is something. And then one more bit, and well, I'm slipping down, but that's really something up through me. So the movements we're looking for are the movements inside the body, not the movements of the body. So we move the body to get ourselves to the point where we're starting to generate movement within the body. So even though you're standing still like this, there's so much flow going on inside. Okay. Thank you very much.